Are you objectifying me? Stop it. When I think of the term baddie, I don't naturally associate it with the image of a white girl. Take Kylie Jenner, for example. She's often referred to as a baddie, but is she really? Kylie didn't create the look. I guess her and her sisters popularized it, but no, they did not popularize it. She actually adopted it and then used it to her advantage. Remember how she looked before the alleged surgery that she claimed that she did not have and then later confessed to having, like we were idiots? Baby girl. So she basically had a transformation. Like Kylie Jenner, many women, both women of color and white women, perform baddiness. I say perform because from my personal observations, especially on platforms like Instagram and TikTok, being a baddie often seems like a learned behavior rather than an inherent identity. There are countless tutorials on how to dress, do your makeup, and pose like a baddie. Like this right here is from the internet. I had to Google. For me, if you have to take a lesson on it, you're missing the essence.
Bad Bitch 101, Lesson 20.
Stop taking shit so personally.
Tips on how to become the baddest bitch you can be and how to maintain it.
I'm gonna tell you how to be a baddie, but on a budget. We're not spending too much.
Some might not embody the confidence or the attitude, but their body and the perfect mastery of the aesthetic alone qualifies them as a baddie. Baddie. Let's bring it closer to home. I am petite, and on most days I keep it simple with my bare face. I could easily be mistaken for a 19-year-old, and on those days I definitely fall into the low maintenance category. I love existing in my natural state. I don't feel the need to overdo my appearance every day. But when I do dress up for a special occasion, honey, trust me, I eat. You know, I murder. Now, do I have the characteristics of a baddie? I think so. Look, I am trying to fool y'all with this look right here. Am I confident though? Absolutely. Am I chasing the bag? For sure. Do I set boundaries? Too many, honestly, but am I a baddie? No, absolutely not. Because here's the thing. The baddie aesthetic is heavy about the look, the body archetype. A lot of women may not have the inner characteristics or personality traits that align with confidence or self-assurance, but because they present themselves a certain way or fit into a particular aesthetic, they are automatically labeled as a baddie. It's almost as though we've become conditioned to associate a certain look with success, power, and confidence, even if it's just surface level. And me, I know how to hold my ground for sure. I take good care of myself, I pay my bills, and I strive to be the best version of myself every day. But because I am not into wigs, I don't wear long nails, my waist is snatched, but that's because I am petite. Come on. The good Lord did not have time to carve my hips and my ass. That department, I'm struggling there. For an African girl, that's crazy. So to society, I am just an average girl, and in my world, honey, I am a goddess child. What is the feminine equivalent of the red pill? We had a pandemic of enduring the opinions and biases of men with mics. We still are currently in that pandemic, but listen, it's not about men with mics right now. We're talking about baddies. When men speak about the red pill or the manosphere, there is an immediate recognition of what they are referring to. They are referring to a movement centered around masculinity, often focused on reclaiming traditional male roles, power dynamics, and critiques of modern feminism. But what's the equivalent for women? What women or archetype can women look to that speaks to a similar sense of reclaiming power in a modern hyper-visual world? The answer in many ways could be found in the high following of baddie culture, a phenomenon that emerged in the 2010s. This aesthetic movement, with its roots often traced back to stripper culture, has redefined how women, particularly women of color, present themselves, take up space, and project power. But here's the catch. While men find empowerment through intellectual or philosophical movements like the red pill, women are often funneled into a space where empowerment is primarily about how they look and how mean they can get. Growing up in the ghetto, growing up in poverty, inspiration was hard to come by. Poverty has a way of stripping away hope, of making you see the world through a lens of lack. Lack of opportunity, lack of resources, and for me, a lack of representation. The women in my life, while present, didn't offer the kind of strength I wanted them to emulate. It wasn't just the weight of poverty, it was the weight of patriarchy, a burden that these women carried without question. They conformed, they endured, and objectively stuck to their assigned roles in the traditional African archetype of womanhood that surrounded me. Women were seen as submissive, their existence tied to men's approval. They were expected to bend to the will of men, whether it was enduring infidelity, accepting domestic roles without protest, or letting their self-worth be determined by society's gaze. The kitchen was their kingdom, their only domain. For them, a man's love, even when broken and full of betrayal, was a treasure to hold on to. They were afraid of stepping outside these boundaries, too afraid of what the neighbors would say if they didn't fit neatly into the roles they had been assigned. I simply did not aspire to fit in any of these boxes. Still don't. At the age of 8, I was taken advantage of. A baby, a child, violated and misled by the very same structures that women are told to trust. From that moment, I made a choice. While this was definitely a trauma response, I decided that I would never live to appease the male gaze. But look at me right now on Beyonce's internet. Content. I would not allow myself to be molded into the kind of woman who thought her value depended on how she was seen through men's eyes. I didn't want to be the good woman who turned the other cheek, who lived in fear of stepping out of line. I totally rejected that archetype. The idea of living to serve, to please men, or fit into the mold of acceptable womanhood became irrelevant to me. Yet, as I grew older, I found that society had traded one archetype for another. Baddie culture, this new wave of so-called empowerment, seemed to offer women the chance to reclaim their power. But at its core, I see the same game being played. The difference? Instead of suffering in silence, women now wear their power in hyper-visual ways. A snatched waist, a perfect face, and curves in all the right places. The roles of patriarchy have shifted, but they are still there, lurking beneath the surface. Women are praised for how they perform power, not for the actual power they hold. So here we are. in the age of baddie culture. Or maybe it's currently the decline. We never know with these trends. Looking good is more than a personal choice. It's practically a global assignment. It's not just about slapping on some lip gloss and calling it a day. No, no, sweetie. Hell no. My darling. Being a baddie requires strategy. You need that snatched waist, the perfect wig, the contour that makes your nose look like it was sculptured by Michelangelo. And let's not forget the confidence. You know, the kind that magically appears after five women complimented your ass. Baddie culture claims to be about women claiming their power. Isn't it funny how the power we are reclaiming looks a lot like what men have been eyeballing for as long as I can remember? A waist so tiny it makes you question whether ribs are optional accessories. Let's just say it's no coincidence. It's almost as if we've rebranded oppression and slapped a cute hashtag on it. And that's where the real conversation begins, because we can't just talk about baddie culture without addressing the movements that tie into it. Take divine feminine or goddess culture, for example. This movement focuses on reclaiming women's power through spirituality and embracing femininity as strength. But in contrast to the red pill's hyper masculine energy, this is more about inner balance and emotional intelligence. Sounds great, right? But it doesn't stop there. You know, after that, we've got the high value woman movement.
A lot of women think just because I take care of the family and I give birth to the children, then I'm providing so much to the table. No, he can do it with any woman. What's the value you're bringing to this man's table other than you giving birth and you handling the household? You have to have certain characteristics of value. You can't just be eating off a table full of food. You gotta add to the table.
It's about demanding relationships with men who meet certain standards, financially, emotionally, you name it. Women are being encouraged to be selective in dating, which is kinda like the female version of red pill's focus on male self-improvement. And of course, the topic of the day, baddie culture itself, which isn't just about looking good. It's about wielding that beauty as a weapon, confidence, independence, and control of your narrative, showing women how to leverage their looks and influence to climb the social ladder. We've also got the big boss babe movement, pushing women in entrepreneurship and business, screaming, yes, you can wear pink and still dominate the boardroom. It's the modern version of being feminine and powerful, while much like the red pill, encouraging success and self-reliance. Let's throw in some dark feminine energy, the side of empowerment that says yes to reclaiming traditionally taboo traits like sensuality, control, and manipulation. And you've got a real cultural mix. So, what do all these have in common? Whether it's about business, relationships, or aesthetic, these movements share a focus on women reclaiming their roles in society, flipping the narrative on its head. The irony is, while we say we're reclaiming power, we're often still playing a game men designed. The male gaze, especially in hip hop and media, has historically fixated on certain body features. Thick, slim waists, ample hips, and voluptuous curves. This obsession has sculptured beauty standards that can define desirability for countless women, leading to an explosive rise in procedures like the Brazilian butt lift. Implants have been around way before the BBL, but the BBLs have become the poster child for that curvy ideal that pop culture glorifies. My theory is if men suddenly develop a fascination with elbows, we'd have a whole new wave of cosmetic surgeries to enhance the elbow. This highlights the absurdity of societal beauty norms largely shaped by male desire. pushing women into extreme measures to conform. The internal conflict becomes evident. Are these modifications acts of self-empowerment or just a desperate attempt to fit into a mold crafted by men? Female rap culture and society perpetuate some of these narratives. Female rap, not the Doechi kind, because I'm biased to the girl. You know, these huns right here. Me and baddies be getting along. There has been striking transformation where hypersexualization is often celebrated as sexual liberation. Pussy's so good, I got him acting like a puppet. But hold on, this narrative might be a double-edged sword. While artists praise the freedom to express their sexuality, they risk reinforcing the very standards they claim to reject, all under the watchful eye of the male gaze. For young women trying to find their footing, this creates a baffling conundrum. They are flooded with messages and images that champion this so-called empowerment, yet the pressure to conform to hypersexual ideals remains very present. Instead of embracing their true selves, many feel the need to put on a hypersexual mask just to be seen as confident or liberated. It's a cycle of objectification, just dressed in a new outfit. This tangible web of empowerment raises significant questions about self-worth and identity, especially for those still figuring out who they are. Navigating the fine line between the authentic self-expression and the weight of societal expectation is no easy path. This leaves many young women wondering if their empowerment is genuinely theirs or simply a reflection of what the world tells them. Why do these trends resonate with so many of us? Why? Firstly, it's cultural shifts and social media influence. Social media platforms are like breeding grounds for these archetypes. The baddie aesthetic with its perfect makeup, designer clothes, and boss mentality wouldn't have taken off without Instagram and TikTok. These platforms have made it easy to visualize status, allowing people to project a version of themselves that seems confident, powerful, and in control. Thus, mass exposure influences others to follow suit in order to feel relevant and accepted. It's almost like a digital survival of the fittest, where being on trend translates to higher social capital. While these archetypes claim to represent independent women in control of their looks, lifestyle, and choices, the truth is often more complex. The notion of empowerment here is tied to external validation, whether it's through male attention, social media likes, or social recognition. And in future, as more women critically analyze the difference between authentic empowerment and performative empowerment, we could see pushback against these trends or a shift towards even more niche subcultures that resist mainstream pressures. These trends allow people to live an idealized version of themselves, offering an escape from reality. For instance, the high maintenance girl archetype promotes luxury, self-care, and living a soft life, which can be especially attractive in a world full of pressures and insecurities. Women can feel like they are winning by embodying these personas, even if it's for social media. These archetypes offer young women a clear blueprint for identity information in a world where traditional roles, the housewife, the career woman, etc., don't fully satisfy modern aspirations. Now, the influencers of today need to give their flowers to the OGs, the original ladies who set the blueprint for baddie culture and influencer culture. Amber Rose and Black China, often credited as the trailblazers in the baddie movement, influencing the aesthetic and culture that define what it means to be a modern baddie. Both women have successfully navigated the fine line between empowerment and hypersexuality, using their bodies and appearances to command attention and shape their narratives in an industry that often objectifies women. Now, Amber Rosie, known for her bold fashion choices and unapologetic attitude, became a cultural icon. She capitalized on her image as a confident woman, turning her personal brand into a lucrative business. Like, she made money just because she existed as her. Black China. Similarly, Black China has leveraged her striking look and social media savvy to cultivate a mass following, initially gaining fame as a model and video vixen. Video vixens were the first baddies, actually. China represents the boss babe aspect of baddie culture, where women assert their independence and financial autonomy while simultaneously embracing their sexuality. Together, Amber Rose and Black China have set the stage for a new generation of baddie influencers. They've shown that being a baddie is not just about looks. It's also about the ability to navigate and challenge societal norms. Now, of course, we have to talk about, Africa. Before the term baddie became popular in Africa, young women who embraced a glamorous high-maintenance lifestyle were referred to as slay queens. Like, was there ever a dark slay queen? All the slay queens I knew growing up were light-skinned. They were known for their dedication to look polished, flaunting designer brands, and often being associated with wealth and blessings, social influence, whether real or perceived. The slave queen archetype thrived particularly in urban African settings. For cultural context, in many African countries, particularly in South Africa, Kenya, and Nigeria, the term slave queen came with both admiration and critique. While some saw them as icons of confidence and modern femininity, others viewed them as materialistic or shallow, perpetuating negative stereotypes. This dynamic can be tied into the broader conversation on the cost of social validation and the pressures African women face to meet global beauty standards. The term itself implies that these women slay. They dominate in terms of fashion and social appeal. Slay queens, in connection to baddie culture, like the baddie archetype in the West, leverage their appearance and confidence for social capital. The shift to the term baddie can be seen as part of a globalized adaptation of Western pop culture, but the roots of slave queen culture reflects the unique intersections of class, gender, and power in African societies. Over time, the term slave queen took a more negative connotation, especially within African communities. It became synonymous with women perceived to be gold diggers, those seeking wealthy sponsors or blessers to fund their glamorous lifestyles. The backlash reveals the inherent societal tension between female empowerment and the male gaze, particularly in traditionally conservative African societies, because we're quite conservative on this side. Another layer to consider is how global beauty standards, particularly Western ideals, have influenced African slave queens, much like their Western baddie counterparts. It gets me wondering if the term baddie or slave queen is labeled as a form of empowerment, or if it serves to demonize African women who step outside traditional gender norms, because a lot of men will attest and scream out their lungs and tell you about how they'll never get married to a slave queen or a baddie. The girls are for the streets. Hey, hey, hey. But if we check your Instagram, sir, your Instagram, it's full of thotties, thirst traps, the girls you approach at the club, the girls you want to cheat on your wife with or on your girlfriend with. She's a baddie. Like some of y'all are out here just giving beautiful ladies like 10, 20K. That's how blesser culture, and I think this could be the next topic. This is just how blesser culture in South Africa is so pervasive. It's prominent. It's widespread. Final thoughts. Pew. The world and all its polarities. Ugh. If the baddie aesthetic exists and is thriving, then there's surely the low maintenance girl aesthetic that exists and is in the shadow. There's a clear hierarchy where baddies often feel the need to associate with baddies to boost their social standing. For me, true value doesn't stem from external factors like a Chanel bag or a Birkin bag or a luxury apartment. It's rooted in the knowledge and experiences you carry within. Unfortunately, our society is wired to treat those perceived as more attractive or wealthy with greater respect, reinforcing superficial beauty standards that are all too often dictated by social media. I'm even more curious to what type of men baddies attract. Now that's a conversation for another day. It's also alarming to see how detrimental these trends can be to young girls scrolling through social media, many of whom look far older and wealthier than I am. They look way ahead of their time. In Africa, we are blessed with naturally curved women. Bundas are there. The nyash is there. Everywhere. African women do not need to go under the knife for a BBL, yet it's fascinating and frankly perplexing to see influencers with naturally ample assets still choosing to undergo surgery to fit into these Western ideals. Why? Like, what is driving this desire to conform to a standard that seems so out of touch with the beauty that already exists within their being? At the end of the day, we must question the narratives surrounding beauty, empowerment, and value. As we navigate these complex landscapes, let's remember that our worth isn't measured by aesthetics or material possessions, but by the depth of our knowledge, experiences, and the authenticity we bring to the world. Trends come, trends go, but the baddie culture, that's why it's called a culture. It's been there. It's been there for a while. And a lot of women have embodied this personality. I don't think I can fully trust an archetype that has its foundations in stripper culture. Back then, we would demonize the strippers for having long bust downs and having extremely long nails and dressing like with like this back in the day was not allowed. People would look at you like, she is a prostitute. But now people can freely walk around the streets. Women can walk around the streets dressed however. And that is great. It shows that we are progressing as a society, but not everything is fully positive, just like the yin and the yang. Within the darkness, there's light. Within light, there's darkness. So even though it's empowering, there are some aspects of it that could be detrimental to the future generations and the future children to come. I'm really not a follower of trends. I've always enjoyed being my own person, and I know that within my individuality, I do have some traits and different characteristics that all contribute into the cocktail, which is my identity. I just enjoy being me. I don't have time to go onto the internet and listen to someone tell me how to be a woman or how to get a man. Like, my life experiences are my life experiences. If I am going to learn something, I rather learn it from the books. And if it's advice I'm taking from the internet, It's mostly self-improvement, but never how to be a clean girl, how to be a he, how to be a they. It's just a lot. Like, it shows that a lot of people are not comfortable in standing firm into the foundation of their being. And that's concerning. That is really concerning. But yeah, that's all I had to say. We got a mic. I hope I sound sexy. Yo, just now, this thing was
not recording the entire time. I'll be sad. I'll be sad. The channel is growing and I see everyone's comments. I'm so thankful. I'm such a gent. Like, what the fuck? Okay, I'm still being a bad bitch. I'm so thankful for everyone's. I wasn't even recording like that. Thank you for watching, especially if you've made it all the way through. Like I always say, I appreciate you and I'm thankful for your existence. Thank you for your support. Have yourself a great human experience in your reality after you finish watching this video, and stay blessed.